That was just part of one of many anti-Israel protests we've seen across the country. This one in particular took place in Philadelphia last night. It was outside of a Jewish and Israeli-owned restaurant. Protesters gathering outside the Goldie restaurant accusing the owners of genocide.
Yeah, coming as colleges and universities, not just that restaurant specifically, grappling with anti-Semitism on campuses across the nation in the midst of the Israel-Hamas war. And the Anti-Defamation League is calling out university administrators for their handling of anti-Semitic incidents on college campuses. Jonathan Greenblatt is here, the CEO of the Anti-Defamation League. Thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate that. I want to talk about anti-Semitism, as you well know and track, has been around. I mean, it's been around for years and years, decades and decades, but now specifically rising at levels we have not seen, specifically there on universities, college campuses. What is the ADL's stance on how universities are handling anti-Semitism on campuses?
Well, Stephen and Emma, thank you for covering this for the question. I would grade the universities and generally give them an F on how they're handling this situation. We've seen again and again, for some of our most prestigious, distinguished institutions like Harvard or Cornell or the University of Pennsylvania, which is right around the corner from the protests that you saw in that video. And these university presidents have been pathetic in the way that they have failed to demonstrate simple moral leadership, to illustrate a clarity of values. I'm sorry, targeting a Jewish business, accusing it of genocide. Of course, it's absurd, but it's also offensive, and it should be criminal, because it's a tortious action to prevent people from entering the restaurant because you're trying to intimidate and scream at them for a crime that has nothing to do with the owner of the establishment.
It's just, yeah, you know, Jonathan, it's just one of many shocking instances that we've seen recently. Again, the fact that this man is operating in Philadelphia, doing nothing more than serving customers, and now he's being swarmed by people with anti-Israel views. And I wanted to ask you just the ADL's perspective on how to address this. As a Jewish business owner, should you close up shop? Should you cancel, specials or deals planned, or should you go ahead and host them? What would you advise? We've also seen reports that a Hanukkah celebration would be canceled. What's your best advice to keep, of course, Jewish people safe during this time and also just living their lives?
Well, I got to say a few things. So number one, as you just pointed out, the idea of targeting a Jewish business because you're upset about policies in the Middle East, you could be very upset about what the Communist Party is doing in China vis-a-vis COVID and to the Uyghur minority, but no one would think it's okay to, vandalize and harass people going into a Chinese restaurant. And you could be very angry about how the government of Mexico doesn't do enough to stem the flow of immigrants over the border or to stem the narco criminal gangs. But no one would say it's okay to go to Taco Bell and protest. So this is as despicable and as morally repugnant. So what should happen? Number one, I want Mayor Kenney, the mayor of Philadelphia, to show up at that restaurant today for lunch. I want Governor Shapiro, and Governor Shapiro, by the way, has been great dealing with the issues at the University of Pennsylvania, but we need elected officials from both sides of the aisle to show up and say, we support that restaurant, we support our Jewish community. And this kind of scapegoating, it's not just anti-Semitism, although it is, it should be criminal to intimidate business owners based on their ethnicity or their faith. This is America we're talking about, and no one should think it's acceptable. I think one thing that's very important here is this just puts to bed the lie that anti-Semitism is a legitimate political ideology. It is not. Anti-Semitism is hate, and anti-Zionism, trying to delegitimize the Jewish state, is anti-Semitism. So these people, let's just be clear, this wasn't a political demonstration, it's a mob scene. They're not just anti-Israel, they're pro-Hamas, and there should be no place for this in public life, not on a college campus, not in a public space, nowhere.